Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're doing our February 1st library update. These are all of the board games, the pre-orders, as well as the upgrades that entered the SideGame Library during the month of January 2023. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's talk about all of the board games that entered the library during the month of January 2023. Starting off with the new arrivals section, we have the new expansion for Too Many Bones. This is the Riffle character pack. This is a new gear lock that you can use that actually has half of their dice replaced by a deck of standard cards. Now, there's no jokers in this unless you solve some puzzles, but the core gameplay of this was where you're going to be able to play a set of cards from your hand every turn and get some effect. You can heal, deal damage, gain bones, or shuffle more cards into your deck to give you more options for later. So you're managing this deck of cards as well as your dice, your health, everything at once. And for my first impressions, I've played him twice already, he seems to be one of the strongest gear locks that we've seen. He has lots of chip damage by being able to do small instances so he can get around some annoying keywords like hardy. It also has this insane amount of survivability with ways to keep him alive with a single hit point, which is absurd. And then that deck of cards is so flexible, and there's a skill where you can play multiple cards, you can add up to it, where you're able to do a lot of healing, a lot of damage, build up your bones. It's kind of insane how consistent this character is, because there's a lot of customization to your own personal deck of cards, because you're balancing between like a discard, his deck, as well as this side deck. So a super powerful character, but also thematic and fun to play. I think the card play paired with the dice is interesting, and it's not too convoluted, which I appreciate. So I was a little terrified about this with this giant deck of cards you were going to have to manage as well. But overall, impressed with Riffle, and if you're looking for just a powerhouse character that will be helpful for that solo mode or playing in those higher difficulties, I think Riffle's a great choice. That's our first one, that is Riffle for Too Many Bones. Next up, we have Far Away 2nd Edition. This was actually recommended to me by Roll for Crit. This was Game of the Year from Jonathan and Will a while ago, and it finally came back into print. Got a chance to play this one, and it has impressed me extremely. This is a cooperative game where you play as astronauts on a planet, and you have a scenario objective of some sort. Every time you play, you'll get a new scenario and have some form of missions. You'll have these mission cards that guide you through. But the game itself has a very basic core framework of moving around, gathering cubes, but with limited communication options where you can only actually communicate when you're in the same space. There's a variety of lost conditions, but the best thing about this game is the AI system. So you have this board down here, this ecosystems board, and as you play, you're going to encounter these different creatures, and the creatures are going to tell you how they interact. For example, this thing is a fungus. It only eats dead things. It can see 2 spaces away. It likes traveling by itself, and then it wanders. And so you have all these different things to keep in mind, but the rules for actually moving the characters is each of them gets a single movement and a single action, so it's up to the players to decide how they're going to do that. What a cool concept. You're essentially role-playing, so all of the fiddliness that comes from figuring out like these decision trees and AI skill trees is eliminated because it's all right here. You can look at a creature, understand what sort of behavior it has, and then you're controlling this ecosystem that's on this planet that you are interacting with and having to deal with based on the mission that you've chosen. We just recently played one where there was this parasitic thing that would attach to you, or these sea urchins that puffed up and got super spiky if they were in water, so they were trying to find their way into water so they could put their defenses up. It was so cool having to navigate around that, and the mission design is clever, interesting, and varied, and I think that's something that's important for these missions that have such a simple framework but have these cool ideas that are added with the RPG AI system. So that's Far Away 2nd Edition. Extremely impressed with this one. Next up is War of the Ring, the card game version of War of the Ring. You're going to be playing as one of the armies of Middle-earth, whether you're on the good side or the evil side, and fighting for control of these battlefields in the center of the area. You'll play your cards onto those battlefields or in your reserve, but every time you play a card, you have to take one of your cards in your hand and put it into the cycle pile, so it'll get shuffled back into your deck later. You're always choosing between what's good now and what's good later, and most of the cards rely on others to actually be used. You can't use this sword unless you have this specific character, so you're trying to sift your deck and play things in an order where eventually those card combos will come up. You can also always play something in that reserve for some special abilities and then utilize them when they're actually needed based on the progression of that Lord of the Rings system. I think it's a cool system and it's fun to play. It's quite fast as you're playing these characters into locations. Classic lane battling system with some neat ideas ideas and thematic card combos. I love the 4-player version of this, as each player has decks, and my cards might have things that work on your cards, which is awesome. So you do have some coordination and collaboration there, but there's a variety of scenarios that you can pick from. So I like that this has a lot of legs with having the different modes of play all being strong. My least favorite way to play, though, is the 2-player version with like the entire deck of cards. I think that one is way more random than the other ones because it's harder to find those combos since they're all in the same deck and you're seeing less cards. But I do like the single-player version, sorry, the 2-player version where you're playing with smaller decks. I think it's called Fellowship Mode, and you're just playing the arc of the first story. It's played as an introductory game, but I think it's actually an excellent way to play a quick game of this with just the 2-player count. But then after that, the 4-player mode is my preferred way. Apparently, they're working on a solo mode for this and other modes of play, which is awesome. The fact that this system can be expanded like that. That is the War of the Ring, the card game. Next up is Stellarion. This is a solo or 2-player game of deck management. The way it works is you're going to have these 8 piles of cards in front of you, and every turn you're going to be using the top 2 cards of some of those piles. You're either going to use them for their symbols, or if you've collected enough of the same color and different types of symbols, you're going to gather all 4 of those to go on a journey. So your job is to essentially manipulate the decks in a way that you're able to reveal certain symbols and then put them all out of the board in order to push towards your win condition. Once you get to a certain number of these, you win the game. There's a bunch of expansions in the box. I played the first 3, and each one is going to be either adding different cards or tokens to spice up the difficulty, adding new cards in the decks to make it harder to shift through, giving you more objectives, or giving you extra tokens that add new additional rules. I haven't gotten to this bottom one here. It's a little map that has, it looks like some terrible creature or entity that's going to be moving along. So that sounds kind of interesting to me, how they're going to incorporate the map to this, but I think that core system of shuffling the cards is a lot of fun. So that is Stellarion. Next is Green Team Wins. This is a party game that I was pretty excited for, just for its simple concept of thinking outside of the box, but also playing into groupthink. The game concept is quite simple, as you are going to be given a prompt, for example, coffee blank, and then everybody at the table will write what they think the most popular answer will be. So people would say cup or shop or break, and some of these are like this or that, so they're just going to give you 2 options to pick from. So they go from small amount of choices to large amount of choices, and your goal is to be on the majority. If you are on the majority, you go into the green team and get a point. If you are already on the green team and you stay on the team, you get 2 points, and then if you are not correct, you go onto the orange team and you score no points. So you're just trying to get onto that green team and get there as soon as possible. Now, while I think that this leads to some awesome conversation moments as to wondering why people chose specific things, I don't think it does much else outside of that, but that portion is a lot of fun, and I think that makes a good party game. The scoring, I think, is also a bit wonky, as there's really no way to catch up and someone can just sort of take the lead, but I think that the questions are also made in a way that are going to make it not alienating to anybody. A lot of these are simple things like this. Add a word, and it's not really something that's going to be a problem for somebody, and I like that. That's something that I think needs to be in party games, where it's not going to trigger anybody and it's going to be friendly for everybody. So that is Green Team Wins. Next here is Woodcraft. This has you playing as these master woodcrafters, and you are going to be using dice and chopping them up and putting them into these different contracts. You can use these machines that will saw them, glue them back together, add pieces of wood. You have this interesting action wheel mechanism where you're taking one, moving it down, and then getting incentive systems on the ones that have been picked less often. You have assistant cards that will help you. So many different things going on this, but as you play it, the first time is a kind of a nightmare, as there's all these little things going on, but one playthrough, a couple of turns through this, everything clicks, and I love this game. This game is awesome. My favorite part about this game is the fact that you can invest in things early in the game and get consistent use out of them. I mentioned before, you can saw stuff, glue things. That's something you gotta buy. You don't buy it, you don't get to do it. You can buy pots to plant your little wooden dice in, and that doesn't make any sense that your lumber is also seeds, but sure, it's magical fairyland, so this is great. So you can plant dice in there and they'll grow, so it's up to you if you want to invest in that. I ignored that in my first game completely, but then my second game, I gave it a try, and it was a lot of fun as it opened up new actions and bolstered the strength of those actions, making those more prioritized for me, making that entire action wheel different because no one else was doing that, meaning I got to use these amazing juicy actions. Oh, it was awesome. So I think this game is wonderful. This makes contract fulfillment exciting and interesting, shipping and all the different paths that you can go forward with it. And the contracts are cool with rewards that you're trying to take on as many as possible while actually fulfilling them in time. Excellent game. That is Woodcraft. Next is Aeon's Trespass Odyssey. It's a huge boss battling game set in Greek Odyssey times. You have this Argo, this ship that you're going to be sailing around, and then after a couple of story encounters, you'll get to be fighting these giant boss battles. And in the boss battles, your characters will have these 3 different currencies that they're trying to deal with, and they're essentially their loss conditions. If they ever max them out, they die. Their luck for rerolls, their fate, fate for rerolls, their rage, which gives them more attack power, and then their danger, which lets them get attacked, essentially. So you're trying to juggle these things, but the more you tap into fate, the more likely you are to die. The more you are angry, the stronger you get, but if you max that out, you just pass out from your rage. It's kind of crazy. But the battle is the best part in this game, for sure, and it's all I want to do. You get to control these giant titans and move them around. The AI system is so cool how it escalates. Every time you hit something, the AI deck will get stronger, and that's terrifying because that means now it's harder to hit them. They're going to be hitting you back harder, but your cooperation and coordination, the way it works with you, is your characters also progress in their strength because that rage stat is increasing. So everything is getting stronger, you and the enemy, and it's a cool feeling as the stakes are raising in a natural way. That being said, I do think that the story portion of this game is a little bit on the weaker side, with having a lot of time in moving, finding tiles, bringing them out, and then having lots of small story encounters. So I wish that this game would focus more on the boss battling and get me into a more streamlined cyclical process. This game is based heavily off of Kingdom Death Monster, which I think has done a great job in streamlining that whole experience where you got your random events, you go into the fight, that's what the game's about, then you go to a settlement phase and quickly resolve that and get you right back into the hunting and fighting again. So I wish that this game was a bit more streamlined on that end of the spectrum and got you into these fights more, because that's where this game shines with the combat itself. So that is Aeon's Trespass Odyssey. I do want to touch on this really quick. There is no organizing video for this right now because our copy is still very much damaged. We have not heard back from Into the Unknown Games about the replacement copy yet. I reached out to them a while ago about getting replacements, and that includes pieces as well as the box because I was just pretty dang damaged. But they did not get back to me after I inquired about the last update. They said it would be about a month before they got the shipping inquiry form from FedEx, which I requested, and that did not happen yet, and we need that to go further with the replacement process procedure. So waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully we get it soon, because this sounds like a organizing video that would help out a lot of people. So hoping to hear back from them soon. That is Aeon's Trespass Odyssey. Next game here is Hoplomachus Victorum, and this one's actually a little bit of a disappointment. This was bid to me as the Too Many Bones killer, this amazing rework of the original Hoplomachus, which I thought was a fine solo and competitive game. It has you taking a single gladiator, going around the island, recruiting a team of gladiators, and fighting a series of bosses with encounters in the middle. This sounds incredible on paper, but what it turns out to be is it's a little bit long for the experience. Actually, not a little bit, it's a lot of bit long. And the way that they increase the difficulty in later fights is they just give you more enemies to fight that all have the same skill sets and that are from your same pool of things that you've been fighting for the last couple of hours. So I don't really like the way that that system is done. It's got some awesome things in it. I love the team composition building, recruiting people. The maps are cool. Whenever you travel to a new place, you get to get a new person on your side. And then the combat itself is fun. It's simple. You move your characters around, you beat them up, and you try to be as tactically aware as possible as the arenas are going to change, and you need to play into those. But the combat itself gets repetitive pretty quickly, as every time you set up a fight, the line will tell you how many enemies you need to pull, how many tactics. You'll pull all those out, and then if you're playing later in the game, so after the first age, once you go to the second age, you add an extra baddie to the end of the line from the bag. So it just makes an extra person show up every time. You're still doing the same concept, same things, but it's just longer. And I think that there are more elegant ways to do this, and you see this in Too Many Bones, which we talked about earlier, where the enemies scale based on time. So you have 1 point enemies, then 5, then 20, and so after time has gone by, instead of having 5 1-point enemies, which is sort of what this game does, you just fight a giant horde of enemies that are all about the same power level. You're going to be fighting one gigantic, terrifying enemy, and I love that. So this game left me a little bit longing, unfortunately. I think it's too long for what it is, and I wish that it had a better scaling mechanism, because I don't think this is going to be one that I pull out very frequently. So that's Hoplomachus Victorum. Next one here is Hoplomachus Remastered. I actually enjoyed this one a lot. This is sort of what I was expecting from the remastered version of Hoplomachus, and this delivered. What it does is it takes the entire original system, the 2-player head-to-head, the solo and the co-op single-shot encounters, and it puts it into a new box that has new art and streamlined everything, and they crushed it. This is so awesome. Played this yesterday with my wife Ariana to try out the cooperative mode, and it worked beautifully. It's a single-shot encounter system where you have each boss with their own way to interact, and then they have these different tokens that represent as sort of objective markers. We fought against Sun Wukong yesterday, and those objectives were his weak points. So if you went and punched them, then you could eventually take them out and gain powers by taking these extra tokens, and then that would give you abilities and allow you to actually attack the main boss, but then you became the target of the new character. You only have a finite amount of units in this one, so you are trying your best to manage your characters. The position is huge because you don't know exactly how terrifying this creature is going to be, and then the way that the enemy attacks is you roll a set of colored dice and it moves around based on the successes that you got, so it will actually scale up in its abilities based on how many successes are rolled each time. But there's always a threat that everything can happen. I love the fluctuation of this and how it can be as intense as your own actions based on how the dice are rolled. It's amazing. I think that the cooperative mode is excellent. It's fast, it's punchy, and it's a single shot experience, so when you're done, you can pack it up and bring it out next time and just have an amazing time with it. And the cooperative works well. The head-to-head is also awesome. It's that core Hoplomachus gameplay where you have your team, you're sending them out, and it's double-sided map with different favor tracks on each, giving you new objectives and ways to play with the bringing back of the arena, what are they called? Arena beasts. Oh, it's so cool. This is so well done. So my recommendation is actually go for Hoplomachus Remastered over Victorum. I know it's a weird thing to say because I do play solo games a lot, but this is my preferred one. I like Hoplomachus Remastered a lot. Yeah, that's my strongest recommendation here. That's Hoplomachus Remastered. Next up here is Ragemore. This is a small little card game for Button Shy Game, and I'm having some fun with it. The way it works is you're going to have these separate piles of cards. You'll have 2 in this upper area here that are the quests, these piles on the right that are your basically completed quests, and then a graveyard pile. There's a bunch of lose conditions if you ever get 4 cards in the quest pile or 3 dead characters, if you ever run out of heroes, but basically on your turn, you're deciding on whether to use your heroes to claim quest cards and put them in your completed quest area, or you're trying to use them to recruit new quest cards, or you can use them to defeat these monsters that serve as your encounters. To me, I think that the game makes sense. The more that I play it, the more I understand the relationship between things, but the more that it seems that there are correct choices. That being said, the more that I play of this, I am starting to see and understand where those decision points come in. So, for example, you'll have a character that can recruit people, and you can only recruit people that don't have skulls. And eventually you'll get to a point where you don't have any people, so naturally the best play is to just recruit people. So you want to make sure you have characters that you can actually take actions in the future. And so that seems like it's the right play. And there's a lot of moments in this game like that where I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, this seems like the only right play, so I will do this. And that happens a lot. But then you get to certain points where you're like, ooh, this is actually a tough decision. And I like that. When you have decisions in this game, they are tough and hard, and I appreciate that. But I don't know how often I'm going to pull this one over other solo card games. So that is Ragemore. Next up is Nidavellir Idavol, an expansion that I was quite impressed with for Nidavellir. It's a simple deck of cards, and you shuffle them up, you put them on top of the Tavern 2 deck. If you haven't played Nidavellir before, it's a bidding game with these coins. You pick coins face down, reveal them. Whoever has the most in each tavern gets to pick from that tavern first. And you can do actions to upgrade your coins. It's a set collection game where each different card has banners and those score in different ways. But this expansion, all it does is add a new deck of cards, these 2s, and it's only used in the first half of the game. You shuffle them up and you put them on the 2 tavern, and then you populate that single tavern with these special cards. And when those come out, that's when you explain them. So I found teaching this expansion really easy. And then when you take these cards, they give you some special ability or some new objective. I love this. This is awesome. This is so easy to integrate, easy to teach people, and if it's your first game, it's also an easy one to throw in, as it gives you some sort of direction in your gameplay, which I love. For example, if you get this little orange guy, he's going to bolster your orange cards in the future. This one here is going to give you points at the end for your biggest coin, but you have to get a red person first to trigger that effect. This one here says that if you are winning, I believe, no, this one here is anytime that you would gain a coin and you get one that's bigger than you were supposed to, you get to tick up on this track. And if you do it a certain amount of times, you get 16 points. So it actually has a progression that you go through and gives you all these little mini objectives. I love this. I think this expansion is fun. It's easy to integrate. And I think it's actually easier to integrate than the first expansion for the game, which is crazy. So I like this one. That is Nidavellir Idavol. Next up is Paleo, A New Beginning. This is an expansion for Paleo, a game of settling in guess, Paleo America, where you are a bunch of cavemen and you're surviving. In the original one, you had the resources in the deck and in the pool, and your goal was to maximize the use of these resources. If you ran out of something, you ran out of it. If you hunted something, it was dead. It was no longer in your deck and you removed it from the game. So there was a scarcity that existed in the deck. In this one, they actually give you the option to cultivate and start doing agriculture. So you have ways to gain grain, you have ways to heal your people, as that was pretty hard to come by before, and now you have ways to domesticate animals. So it gives you some options for engine building in the game, which I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It felt like the game had a bit more of an arc to it. It didn't feel like I was just floundering and playing completely tactically the whole time, and you have a strategy now that you can play into in tandem with the objectives that you're trying to complete in the scenario. I appreciate this one a lot. It adds some new mechanisms, and the new scenarios use the mechanisms well. There's also some spots here on the board that you can see where certain story events will add tokens to this area, which give you new actions to take with the new farming cards. I like this expansion a lot, and I see myself playing this pretty soon, pretty regularly. The more I play Paleo, the more I really like this game, and I think it's one you got to check out in general if you haven't. So that is Paleo and the new expansion, Paleo New Beginning. Next expansion here is Warp's Edge Anomaly. This is more chips, more fighters, and more ships for Warp's Edge, and I like this expansion a lot as well. Go figure. All of these expansions are so good. I'm actually enjoying them a lot. Warp's Edge, though, the new ships got new double-sided chip that you can play with new signature characters, or character chips, these yellow ones, new abilities, but with this add special are two additional things that I think are awesome. The first one are these Anomaly chips. They're these purple chips where there's a bag, and every turn, you can pull an Anomaly chip and get a special ability. You don't know what it is, but something will happen, but then it goes into your discard pile, and if it ends up back in your bag, it's going to give you negative effects. There are ways to get around this, but I think it's a really great option if you're having trouble or want to decrease the difficulty a little bit in the game, or if you want to take on higher difficulty things, then you can put in these purple chips to balance the scales a little bit. And speaking of higher difficulty things, there are also these new cards here, and each of the cards represents a different boss in the game. So before you start, what I like to do is I like to shuffle up the different boss cards, reveal one or two, and then based on the ones that I pull, pick between those which boss that I want to fight for that game. Or maybe I'll shuffle up two of a specific boss and give that boss multiple things. So you're basically giving new conditions and new abilities to the bosses to make them more difficult. And that is awesome. You're adding more variability to a game that you already love and gets played a lot because of how quick it is and that solo nature. But this is more variety for the bosses, more scaling for the difficulty levels, and to take on harder bosses, and then just two new fighters and two new bosses as well. This is an amazing expansion. If you like Warp's Edge, you need to get this one. This is Warp's Edge Anomaly. Next is Atiwa. This is a new Uwe Rosenberg game about farming in Ghana. You're going to be using the ecosystem here with the fruit bats and having them help you harvest and putting out new seeds for your plants. So every turn, it's a simple worker placement game. You put a worker out and you take an action. It'll be usually getting resources of some kind. And then if you have 3 bats, you can send those out to eat one of your fruit, and that allows you to plant a new tree. So you're constantly trying to manage your resources, and you have to have the actual space in your village to place those resources. And that's one of the big things here is you'll be collecting these cards that give you these spots where you can actually put out the different resources. And then at the end of every round, you'll do a big production phase where you work from top to bottom, producing trees, then fruit, then bats, and then feeding your people. And you'll do that process until by the end of the game, usually this resource board is almost empty because of just how much escalation is happening. Now, the one thing that I think this game is lacking, which I think it's going to stop it from being played, is the variability in the gameplay. There are some fun solo goals that you can play that will add to it, so I think that this will be my preferred way to play is the solo mode of Atiwa. But unlike something like Hallertau, the most difference you're going to get in the game are those location cards, and you're only getting maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of them a game, so I don't know how often this one's going to get pulled out just because of the lack of variability. But a fun system. It is gratifying to get that production, but I think that overall the gameplay experiences feel the same from game to game unless you're playing those solo challenges specifically. So that is Atiwa. Next here is Tybor the Builder, a small drafting card game that's so straightforward in what it's doing. On your turn, you get a single card out of a hand, and you can either put it on top of your board to gain a symbol as well as discounts on cards. You can play it on the right of your board to get the strength, which is essentially money in the game, or you can put it on the left of your board to build it. And you can discard it to build one of these central buildings by discarding your power and using the discounts from the top of your board. That's it. All you're doing is drafting a card, using it for currency, an ability, or using it to build a central building. There's effects on the buildings that care about the different symbols, so it's an easy one to pick up and get playing. And then there's an objective system that's used that will change what you're actually chasing for each game. It's got a small campaign as well that you can play with, but overall, I think that this game does exactly what it's setting out to do. It's a simple drafting game that anyone can pick up and start playing, and it's going to be a small time filler. I don't know if this is going to be the most compelling game. It's not going to burn your brain. It's not going to scratch all of your surfaces. I would probably play Seven Wonders or something like that over this game, but I think there's a lot to love here with the simplicity of this package, and while it's changing its objectives each time. So that is Tybor the Builder. Next up is Marvel Zombies, and I'm enjoying this one quite a bit as well. You're playing as the Marvel superheroes, but the zombie versions of them. For example, you might be Zombie Hulk here and completing your zombie objectives. So we played one recently where we had to break into Avengers Tower to hijack the antenna, because that way we could find all of the humans that were left on the planet so we could eat them. Hilarious. So most of the objectives are like that. They're gruesome and terrible, but they work in this weird, messed up world. Now, to grapple with your zombie nature, though, you also have to deal with hunger. So every time you roll a 1 on a die, you increase this hunger track here. If you're ever at the top, you become ravenous, which means you can only do move and eat actions. So all you can do is move and devour. So if you get to a space with a character and you devour them, you reset your hunger. But hunger is also awesome because the more hungry you are, the more extra dice you get to roll and everything. If you also devour these bystanders, though, you can gain their special abilities. Like if you eat a Koye, you suddenly gain her abilities of being an amazing combat character. You can also get these vicious zombie traits that will give you special effects. It sort of replaces the item decks in the original, but altogether, this game is pretty dang fun. You're moving around, you're pushing your luck in pretty much every aspect of this game with gaining abilities and traits and hunger, and trying to win the objective in a correct amount of time. I like the overall arch of this game. As the game gets more difficult, the more strong you get with your level up system here. The more things you kill, you go up on this little track here, which gives you special abilities, but everything scales at once, and it's all about managing your time, your hunger, and then those objectives. So this is one I can't wait for the expansion stuff to come in for, because of the different character cards with new abilities. I feel like we've played pretty much everything already when it comes to the characters, but not all the scenarios yet. We still have 2 scenarios left, but this is one we're having a lot of fun with. That is Marvel Zombies. Next is Zaberias, and I'll be upfront with y'all, this was sent as a prototype copy here, and this is a head-to-head or up to 4-player skirmish game. And I was pretty apprehensive when I pulled it out initially, because if you look at the box here, I was sort of taken aback. It says #1 learning game on the front, and it looked like I had walked into like a teaching store. If you don't know, I'm a teacher as well. This looks like I walked into a teaching store, and this is something that was just on the wall, and it was wrapped up in a package. I was like, oh my gosh, what have I signed up for? But I cracked it open, and this is actually an extremely smart system. So the way it works is that little package is a lid. You pop it open, and that's the board. You'll put it onto the table, and you'll connect it to any of the other boards you're playing. Now, I think that the best way to play this is the 2-player version, because you are head-to-head, and there's none of that 3rd-player extra elimination, because this is a elimination-based game. Your goal is to just eliminate and kill all your opponent's pieces. But if you're playing head-to-head, you have your board and your opponent's board, and then you're set up and ready to go. Your entire system in front of you are all of your units you can summon, your different houses you can summon, and then the dice that are accessible to you for when you're rolling to resolve your different combats. You'll start with one of these towers on your corner, and then every round you'll gain income based on your castles, and you'll start off with 5 coins. You spend those coins to summon units, to build up your castles, to upgrade, to get more income, and most of the early turns seem to fall in the same pattern of spending your coins to just upgrade castles to get more income. But as the game progresses and you start summoning your larger units and moving them around, it becomes a lot of fun as you're mitigating these disasters, putting out your characters, using their abilities. Most of your abilities on your sheets are going to be the same on your weaker characters, but as you get up, everybody will usually have 5 characters that have unique special effects, and that's where the game shines, where you have such a small, tight game in its design space and its packaging, but you have these 5 characters that bring flavor and life to your unique factions. It's an extremely light game where you are simply sending out people, rolling dice, but it does a great job at this. Where I said that Tybor the Builder did a great job with the drafting system, I think this does a cool job with the entire sort of build up your characters, generate this little engine, and then shoot out these troops to fight each other. I think it does work best at 2 players, but overall, this was one that I was impressed with when I initially was pretty terrified about going into it. I'm going to play some more of it before I put out a fully detailed review on it with all the pros and cons, but the package is smart, the packaging is interesting, and I think it makes sense for facilitating getting this game played. I still don't know how I feel about putting that like #1 best educational game for kids 6 and up, because I don't think that's really the audience for this, honestly. There is a lot of reading with keywords, and I think that the combat system will take a little bit to explain to somebody at first, but overall, this is one that I am impressed with so far. This is Zaberias. Next game here is the Arena the Contest expansion. So after playing some Zaberias, I actually played some Arena, because some of the new stuff has come in for it. Now, I won't give a huge detail on this, because just the Tanares adventure box has come in, but we were supposed to get like all of this basically. You can see the Kickstarter here. You had the Arena of the Contest, Tanares Adventures. There were all of these extra expansions for the huge painted miniatures. They are the Madness box, miniatures collection. Lots of stuff should be here, and I don't know when it's going to eventually arrive, but what came in was more characters, and more characters for this game sounds like a lot of fun. If you haven't played Arena of the Contest before, basically you are taking a team in the multiplayer version, a team of 4 characters against your opponent's 4 characters. They all fall under specific classes. They have 4 unique ability cards, and you're alternating turns using one character at a time, moving your person, shooting out your different abilities and spells, and then using a lot of these special abilities. So it's all about the timing of those special abilities. But there is, with the Arena of the Contest Tanares Adventures, you now have a more dedicated campaign. In the original one, there was a campaign for the game, but this one has like a whole world map. It has unique abilities, a unique story that you're going to be going into. I have not played this yet because it has not fully arrived, so I have not dived into it yet. But I like the different variety in the characters so far. It looks like they've almost doubled the amount of characters that you can pick from. And since this is a skirmish game where you're playing with teams of 4, very similar to something like Super Fantasy Brawl, because you're playing with a team-based composition, you're going to use those characters pretty dang quickly. A single fight can potentially use 8 new characters at a time, so it's awesome that you're going to get it played. So that is Arena of the Contest. Looking forward to playing more of this. Next up is Motor City. This is the 3rd in the Roll and Write series of 3 Sisters Fleet the Dice game, but Motor City has you playing in a car factory. There's a lot to love in this game, actually. The way it works is you're going to have these dice on this blueprint board. You'll take one of those dice based on how it was rolled at the start of the round, and then you'll get the bonus underneath it. And whatever column it's in, that's the action that you're going to take. So you get the bonus, you get the action, and then you'll place it on your top board here, and that will give you another action. You're going to be drafting 2 dice each round, so when you place them there, you can't repeat that action. You'll have ways that you can upgrade these actions to get multiple uses of them each time you use it, and you have 5 different areas where you're going to be actually placing your rewards from these actions that you're taking. You have tracks that you're climbing up for bonuses here in engineering. You have this research area that will give you additional one-time bonus effects. You'll have this production one where you're trying to gain symbols sort of around your entire area to get bonuses. This score per round area, this star, I think it's the speedometer. You just get straight points. That one's so strong. And then you have the car dealership, which is going to give you cash, which lets you upgrade your different actions. And then lastly, your test drive area where you can actually move a car around and get tracks. So this game is basically a bunch of tracks, but they're done in interesting and overlapping ways, which is pretty dang fun. I like the production track in particular, where it's caring about your different areas. So you're making your plan and your route in that production spot by looking at your other paths and seeing what different bonuses you're getting in the different spots on the board. There's a lot to like about this game. My only criticism with it right now is it does feel a bit long, and it does feel like the speedometer seems to be just a huge point generation avenue, so you almost always take that when you can. So I wish that might be a little bit different. Played some more 3 Sisters and Fleet as well, just to sort of check my responses on this, and I still think that I prefer the other 2 over this one, but I like the theme here. I think that the different iconography and symbology is a lot of fun, and I think it's one that you'll have a blast with. I like this game a lot. So that is what is this? Motor City. That is Motor City. Next up is 3 Sisters. Speaking of 3 Sisters, Motor City also came with an expansion for 3 Sisters, and this is the Rock Garden. I won't get into too much detail on this because it's pretty dang straightforward. At the end of every round, the dice that you chose, you're going to mark that number off on your Rock Garden. It also gives you bonus actions where you can mark off a number of your choice, and whenever you complete a column or a row, you're going to get a bonus of some sort. For example, say I finish this top row, I can either get 6 points or I can get a fruit. And that's pretty much it. You're going to be trying to get these, getting additional bonuses. It just gives you more things to do with your numbers and a bit more careful selection on your choices. The thing I like about this expansion is it allows you to actually use compost a bit more. Normally, nobody really used compost because it didn't really matter. The numbers, you always could do something with planting, but here you actually care about the different rock garden spaces that you're placing your dice, so that makes drafting the dice a little bit more important on the number, and I see myself using compost a bit more to try to make sure that I get the specific number that I want for the rock garden. So that is the rock garden expansion for Three Sisters. And that's all of the new arrivals. We're going to go ahead and talk about the upgrades that came into our library, starting with Warp's Edge Anomaly Token Upgrade Pack. This is just a, not cosmetic upgrade, but this is a physical upgrade for Warp's Edge, where now the cardboard tokens have been replaced with plastic. Have these for the original, love them. This is the same thing. No problems with telling the difference between these, which is great. So there is consistency between the two. So that's the Warp's Edge Anomaly Token Upgrade Pack. And next up here, we have the Hallertau promo deck. Came with Tybor the Builder and Atiwa, and this is awesome. This is just more variability for Hallertau, one of my favorite games, period. The best Uwe Rosenberg game. I think that everybody should be playing this, whether it be multiplayer or solo. I think the solo game is phenomenal, and it's so good. This game's amazing. But this adds a new deck of cards, and the cards in Hallertau are mini objectives that you're going to be getting constantly. And these mini objectives all feature these resources that you just have to have. And I love that, because a lot of times in Hallertau, you're going to be wanting to spend your resources so that you can move up on your different tracks on your house. But because all of these have the reward of you just have to have these things, but have high numbers of these things, you're going to be second guessing whether or not you want to spend things or you want to hold them for this bonus. So I love that feature of this game, and I think that this small little expansion does it simply, but it does it well. So that is the bonus pack for Hallertau. And then lastly, we have another small promo pack. This is for Vindication, the Overgrowth promo pack. So this was last Black Friday, I believe. So this was a while ago, I think. I think this was not last Black Friday, but the Black Friday before. I don't know. It's been a while, but I ordered this a while ago, and these are just new promo cards for Vindication. It's exactly what you expect. They are nature-themed cards for all of the different aspects, monsters, allies, etc. So if you want more variety, go for it. You got more here with Overgrowth. So that's all of the upgrades that we got into our library. Now we have 2 pre-orders, starting off with Riftlands of Valeria. So this is for the Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria game, and this is a new expansion that's going to be adding new cards, new expedition tokens, so a new part of the board that has expeditions, and then lastly, which I think is super fun, these player board overlays. So they're going to give you some asymmetry to your different characters. I enjoy this game the most out of the entire Valeria series. I think the dice drafting is a lot of fun. It's simple, and it does the job very well. I thought the expansions were a little bit weak in the first one, but having a whole dedicated giant expansion sounds fun, but also modular expansions that don't seem to be too swingy or one-sided or just uninteresting. So looking forward to this one. That is the Riftlands for the Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. And then the last pre-order is for the newest Marvel Champions Hero Pack. This is for Rogue, and she features the ability stealing effects. Now there's some cool things you can do here. So you have this skin contact effect where you're going to attach the touched condition to things. You can touch your friend and gain their effects. You can touch an enemy and gain their effects. I'll go ahead and pull up the card really quick, but it's such a cool concept. Let's just take a look here. So the way touch works is you can attach it to the minions, the villain, an ally, a hero, and it gives you effects based on what you touch. I love this so much. And it also, based on who you're touching, it's going to affect her other cards. And so you are going to be thinking of what sort of abilities you want based on your hand. It just adds to that puzzle even more. So I think it's staying true to our rogue character while adding a new mechanism to the game for the competitive, the solo experience, and the cooperative experience. So this is not a competitive game for the solo, but also the cooperative experience. So I like the touching concept and how it affects all of her other cards. Love Marvel Champions, and more Marvel Champions sounds great. And last thing, she comes with new protection cards, and that includes Iceman finally as a protection hero, as a protection ally. Yes, and he sounds great. You could just sit him here sort of like Hawkeye, and he'll get rid of all your minion problems, temporarily of course, but overall a cheap card with a great stat line. That is Iceman. So that is the Rogue Hero Pack, and that's the end of our video. That's the library update for February 1st, 2023, and those are all the games that entered the library in January. If you have any questions about any of the games that I talked about here, let me know down in the comments below. Which games entered your personal collections during the month of January? Which games here are you excited for me to talk more about, or that you'd like to see or hear more about? Let me know down in the comments below. But thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.